Partners and/or Associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live as well as Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to another Thursday. Hello, Robyn.
Good morning. Hello.
What would the name of our band be?
Trench mouth. I'm just kidding. What's our genre?
I know. I feel like we could do a band name for every genre.
I like a little bit of hip hop.
So for hip hop, I would want to be Sweet and Spicy.
Oh, I like that, sweet and spicy. That one I have to just put on the back burner and let that one simmer because
Okay.
I
like Trench Mouth a lot, though.
that might be our grunge band name.
Yes. If
Definitely
we have a grunge band.
But I would like to do country music, and I know you don't. I know you're not big on.
I know.
Country music,
I would have to.
I like Dixie Chicks, but that's already taken.
That's already
so.
taken. I would need a new outfit.
They wore that one out. So
yeah, I would need new outfits if we were grunge and country. I own neither.
Oh my gosh, we were talking about something last night about being a superhero.
What would your superpower be?
Well, if you're having our conversation, last night it just got to a silly conversation. We were having a glass of wine, and he's like, "What would your superhero be?" I said something about superheroes. And he's like, "What would you be as a superhero?" And I was like, "I'd be super high." And he's like, "What? Like high on life?" Because we've been talking about raising vibration, and we're doing a workbook exercise together, and hopefully being able to share it with other people about what we learn and how we've actually implemented it in our life. Dude, it's so life-changing. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and he's like high on life, and I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, I was thinking like if you were high, I wouldn't say that on the radio. But I'm like sometimes, but I'm like, but high on life, high vibration. And I was like, oh yeah, those are all good. He's like, so what would your outfit be? And I'm like, well, I think it would be like a white bustier. And then and he's like, well, what's a bustier? And I'm like, a corset. And he's like, but isn't a corset? I'm like, the lace things. And he's like, well, does it have straps? I'm like, you're complicating this. You're ruining my vision.
Just go with my flow.
Right. I'm like, they'd be maybe a little scooped over, but it would be white with like sparkles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Diamonds.
Almost like blinding.
Yes. And then we were down at the Burlington Mall on Saturday, which is very weird for us. I'll let you explain that later.
I will.
So we're down at the Burlington Mall, and right in the middle of the kiosks, they have this little childlike angel wings that have all these different like pink and purple and blue flashing lights on it. And I was like, oh my God, I need those. He's like, would you wear those? And I was like, absolutely, I'd wear those. So I would definitely have some like light up wings. And I just said to him, I don't know what bottoms I would wear.
Maybe no bottoms.
No bottoms. And just white leather boots.
Yes. And you'd be high, so no one could even see.
Right. So he's like, I think you should. Well, I said, I don't
You'd be all
really
glittery. You'd be distracting.
Right. Dazzle you with my sparkle.
You can't even look directly at me to see I'm not wearing any pants.
Right. There you go. Well, so I was actually thinking like then I would have probably some really nice heels. I don't know. Maybe some red bottoms. I don't know. But I was like, I don't really want the Wonder Woman pants. I don't want the granny panties because it comes up way over like right under your boobs. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, how about leather? And I'm like, all right, well, we'll go with leather pants for right now.
Yeah.
So that was my super high, super fly
Yep.
superhero.
Yep.
I don't know what I would be. I don't know what power I'd be. Just make everybody high.
Right. Make everyone just feel better.
Right. High vibration.
Yeah.
Yes. Love.
When you were being all grumpy and angry and whatever, you'd all of a sudden feel better.
Yes. And I think probably you could just
we'd be sprinkling you
zap
everywhere.
'em. You could just zap them out of a bad mood.
Yeah, I like that.
What would you be? What was your superhero?
I would be like lightning fast. It would probably have to do with flying.
Oh, yes.
And
You could have matching wings.
yes, I want hummingbird wings.
Yes.
And I've been watching the hummingbirds. They're extra right now.
They are
They are just flirting and dancing, and they're in their mating season, so they're just everywhere extra all the time. So I've been watching them a lot. That's where my hummingbird comes in. And it's amazing. We think they fly over 35 miles an hour. And you think, well, that's not really that fast. But do you know how small a hummingbird is?
They weigh a half a pound, if even that.
And a half an ounce,
yeah.
right? So if you think of how tiny they are for their size to go 35 miles an hour, that's like a car going 95 miles an hour. And you are, everywhere you go 95 miles an hour. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
There's not like, the hummingbird's only doing 12 in this zone. They're not.
Right. Right.
Every time they fly by my head, unless they're stopping to look, which they do, they're going 35 miles an hour.
It's amazing to watch. So literally, we have watched them take down a half of a bottle of hummingbird feeder in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to refill it today. But we have had 2 females that just kind of flutter all around there. It was nice to see the males, and they do their spiral love dance. It is amazing how fast they fly into the neighbor's yard.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
they're
boom.
just a blur. Like you just, because you're around them all the time, you know what they are. But if you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd
Yes.
see
Like
you'd
some
see
kind
a
of a
blur, a big bee or something.
Yes.
But bees don't fly that fast. Yeah, so they're amazing. So I would fly as my superpower. Well, that's not my superpower, but that would be one of my things. I would have to fly everywhere.
Skills.
And I would be instantly there. There'd be no travel time for me.
And you could just come in like a landing walk. You know how you just, and just keep on walking.
And I think my superpower would freeze people. I would freeze them. So if I didn't like what somebody was doing, they'd be frozen in space until I decided to let them go. They can think about that. And my superpower of freezing them would also be like lightning quick.
I like that.
Yeah, that's. I think that's what
Halt.
my superhero would be. We'll see. I have no powers right now at the moment.
Halt.
I was looking at the weather yesterday,
Oh, yes.
trying to figure out what I was going to wear today because I picked out an outfit that was inappropriate when I woke up at 65 degrees. But my weather app has symbols, emojis. It's just emojis. And it usually has like a sun and clouds or raindrops or the moon. This is what I normally see. And last night I saw a vehicle with headlights on. And I was like, what is this trying to communicate? And then I woke up this morning and looked outside and it was like Gorillas in the Mist.
Yes.
With Jane Goodall. In my yard, I just saw like...
So it should have had a gorilla.
Yeah. I was like, it should have just had an orangutan. No, it wasn't orangutans that they saw. It was gorillas.
Silverback.
Silverback. So the next time, if anyone does software for the weather apps, just put a gorilla. And we'll know that that's going to be that weird fog.
But your car had those like streaks of showing like there was some kind of fog or some
well, that's
kind
what
of
we determined. When I woke up, I'm like, oh, that was fog. That's what it was supposed to be. It could just put the word fog. It's small enough.
That's
It's just
true.
do 3 letters.
Yeah.
We can read.
It actually would be smaller.
Yeah, you could do sun, fog, clouds. It doesn't have to be a picture. We're not illiterate. This isn't hieroglyphics. We're not going back into a cave where we just, what do you think they meant here by this 2 angels or 2 triangles and a circle? That must be the sun. These are mountains. We don't have to do that anymore. We have language.
Well, that's funny. We were talking about like I think drawing was probably our first primary of communication on like putting it out there, and other than doing the hand gestures and the movements and drawing stuff in the pointing.
And if you've ever had Pictionary, you know how difficult that is.
Well, I was thinking, like, if you go back and look at those hieroglyphics now in the cave, it probably shows, like, man probably first started drawing those hieroglyphics, and then the woman came along, and she's like, no, we're going to do it this way. And then they have
She added to it.
It's basically like a family argument along on the wall.
No.
And then when she gets mad, they just go back and say, I said that right there. Right there.
That's what I was saying over there.
You're just pointing at it.
Just with see the spear and the wildebeest? I was saying I'm going to go hunt today. I left you a note.
Like, you see those 2 deer? You failed. You see that? There's no food on the
you
table.
said spear and wildebeest, but I'm not cooking a wildebeest in this picture. I don't know what you were doing all day. I drew berries because
Right.
that's what we ate.
You see that group of people over there? You were over there watching NASCAR, and that's why we don't have food. So see how it's just like a whole cycle.
And then we come back 2,000 years. What were they saying? What were they saying?
They were changing the world. Let's build fire. They were doing out their math equation of how to build a fire.
Mm-hmm. Instructions.
Yes. The world explained through a woman's eyes.
Right.
That actually brought me up to, I was listening to the Joe Rogan and Annie Jacobson podcast.
And Annie Jacobson is one of my favorite investigative journalists. I talk about her books all the time.
Yeah, so she's actually been, she does a lot more than just investigative journalism. Doesn't she write for movies and
TV?
Yeah. And she told, I smiled because she's like, yeah, and I'm terrible at math, but I can read and I can write. But she was talking about how let me go back. She was talking about how podcasts are in audiobooks. Originally when audiobooks came out, she didn't like them, but audiobooks now, she said, do you think that it could be, people would consider that as the new literary form?
Yes, because
Instead of writing, she's like, because, I'm a book person. I love to read. And, she would say, push the book instead of reading like audiobook. But I'm like, we live in such a world where we've created, our goal is to produce high producers, we don't teach, our young kids to like take a break, listen to your body. If you're overstimulated, like pause, chill out, you can come back to it. It's drive for perfection, drive. So we incorporate podcasts and audiobooks. And I was thinking about how it's actually opened the whole world up to you. Because I'm thinking, like, wow, I'm sitting here doing a mundane task, going to the grocery store and all this stuff, and I'm listening to something that's so compelling. I mean, it definitely draws you out of the present moment, because I think I turned it off right before Joe Rogan, I think, was going to counter argue that into saying, that somebody had said, you lose something about sitting in the waiting room at the doctor's office.
Yes.
But I don't know that that's necessarily a bad place to be distracted.
So he was saying, you'll end up hearing that, he was given statistics about how many people, there's like some ridiculous amount of downloads of podcasts per month.
Oh, yeah, it's like 500 million.
Yes,
something
per
like
month.
That. It's huge.
And then the audiobook, she said over 50% of her sales are now audiobooks. So if she did not, because that's not the method she uses,
Right.
if she did not participate in it, she would have 50% less sales of all of her books, which is amazing. And she said that she goes on podcasts because that's how people find out she is even an author, to buy her books.
Right.
And I came across her because I'm always wandering through the bookstore, because I'm old school. I know people buy on Amazon books, but I like to look at covers and pick up the book. And I don't know what happened to books, but we no longer put a synopsis on the back.
Right.
It's just like, Kinsley House of Pizza says, this book is 5 stars, right?
Yes.
Which he's going to say about my cookbook.
Yes.
I'm going to put his testimonial on the back,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
And thank you, Brian, for our pizza on Saturday.
Yes.
We'll tell you that story in a second.
Shout out to Brian at Kinsley House of Pizza,
Who arranged delivery outside of the zone.
The zone.
Yeah, we just had to pay a couple of extra dollars for delivery, but
talking about going above and beyond, and somebody like, yeah, and we're in Amherst. You guys are, deep in
Nashua.
But he's like, yeah. I mean, what did he say? He was like,
He said, hold on, let me
on.
check with my delivery because it's a third party. They might charge a couple of bucks extra. He came back, said, it's a little bit extra. Are you okay with that? And I was like, absolutely, because I wanted his pizza.
yeah. And I feel like if it had been outside of that zone, I feel like he would have made it happen.
He would have, but he did.
So definitely appreciate.
And then we
And
had
it's
delicious
great
pizza.
Yes.
At a surprise party.
Yes.
So, but Annie was talking about. Oh, so I was wandering through the bookstore, and I'm an X-File fan. I love X-Files so much when there's nothing on. or when I don't want to get into a new series or something, I just put on old X-Files. Still to this day. It's when I love that.
Did you go to?
And I love it because that first 60-second or 2-minute opening scene, you're not turning that off. It poses some question, and even if they never solve the question entirely, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like that there's just more questions.
Yes.
There's better questions,
Yes.
or, we might not be answering something, but we feel like we're closer to the truth. Right?
Yes. Yes.
And even though that, if you
Or
haven't...
it just expands your mind to think about a layer deeper, or a layer. And there's also some things just aren't meant to have one answer.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes there isn't always the practical solution, and sometimes there is no solution
Mm-hmm.
other than walking away.
Because I love that series so much, I was walking out with my boatload armful of books. I went for one book. I have 10, right? That's just the way I am. And I'm walking by. I don't even know what genre it is. I just see a black book facing forward that says Area 51 with a light behind a door. Like the door is there, but there's light behind it. And I'm like, Mom, X-Files, pick it up. Because Area 51 and X-Files are synonymous to me. And I bring it on vacation, and it's history. I explained it as if history books in school were written in this way,
Yes.
every single person would be a history buff.
Yes.
Because she breaks down these really detailed, difficult government agencies so that you can understand them, so she can tell you a story.
Yes.
And all she's doing is telling you a story.
Yes.
And she writes it in such a way that it's so compelling. And then I'm like, oh, this is true. Oh, this is an investigative journalist. That's how I came to her. And then I fell in love with it. So then I read anything
followed
she
her
writes.
since.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not reading the nuclear war one.
I want to read the paranormal. I do want to read that one.
And
I started-
Phenomena is an amazing book.
I started Area 51, and I'm a good chunk into it. But then we got handed another book, and then I had another book, and then I'm listening to an audio, and then I'm like, and then it feels like I feel like I have so limited time now to be able to just to sit and read.
And what they were talking about the audiobooks is
Yes.
in podcasts, the reason why they keep climbing to fame is you can multitask. You can't
Yes.
hold a book and fold your laundry.
Yes.
Hold a book and cook. You can't and unload
Yes.
the dishwasher.
Exercise. Go
Yes,
to the gym. Drive
exercise.
in your car.
So now we have so much more time to read, and it has now become, before people would say, oh, did you read the book? Oh, I didn't. I listened to the audiobook. That's still reading. Yes, you're
Yes.
not in but you're absorbing information
Yes.
the same way you
you're
would as
exposing
reading.
yourself to the contents
So you-
inside the book, so we don't have to.
Yeah, and the ideas, and you have the information. So you can stop saying that now from a reader. You can stop saying I didn't read the book, I listened to it on audiobook, because we know you were consuming the same exact information.
Yes.
A slightly different
We'll
medium.
still be able to tell the same story, or
Yes.
we'll still be able to tell the story
Yes.
from a different perspective.
So in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a librarian on.
That should be fun.
Yeah, to talk about some books, because we're always talking about books. But we're going to talk about book-to-TV adaptations,
Yes.
because we're both knee-deep into Presumed Innocent on Apple TV.
Wait, did you watch the last one last night?
Was it last night?
So,
Oh, nuts. I thought it was the 28th. No, I'm going to watch it tonight.
Oh, yes.
Okay, don't.
And what's funny is,
Did you guess it?
no, I got it wrong.
Okay, great. I'm gonna watch it.
I really thought, and I was like, well, they did a good job,
Oh, good.
because I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the end coming. But
But does
as
it
we're
make
sitting
sense now
there-
that?
Yes.
Because what I don't like about when you can't guess the ending, because you're like, well, why would I have thought that?
Mm-hmm.
You lied to me the entire time.
It answers exactly what we spoke about yesterday.
Okay.
About hypothetical. When I said, well, hypothetically, that could be this. It does touch on that. But what's funny is we're sitting there watching this, and I haven't seen it, but for some reason, this last episode, the last 2 episodes, I was like, I feel like I've seen this before. I was like, something is so familiar about this. And then when it started unfolding, I'm like, I knew it. And I don't know how I knew it. So I'm like, did I just read the book years and years ago? Because now I have to go back and read the book to see if it's how much is different and how much is the same.
So that was the book that really made me love it and be frustrated with it at the same time. Every chapter, so there's a gentleman, Rusty Savage, and he's a prosecutor. And another prosecutor is murdered in this heinous way. And so now it's identifying her killer. And suspicion arises on him. So instead of being the prosecutor, he is now defending himself against murder. And in the book, every chapter is just, of course he did it. And then the next chapter, you're like, he didn't do it. Who did it?
Yeah.
And then you just oscillate from being in one chapter 100% sure it's him to being in the next chapter 100% sure it's not him. And then the second to last chapter drops the verdict. And so depending on how you left your chapters of he's guilty, you're like, he's guilty.
Yes.
Or he's not guilty. And then you got the reveal in the very last page. It was jaw-dropping, amazing. I was reading the ending on the train, and I made some kind of audible and visual on the train. And the person across from me said, I was wondering when you were going to get to that. Because he had read it. And when I bought the book at the bookstore, the bookseller said, have you ever read this before? And I said, no. And he goes, I'm jealous. I wish I could read it for the first time again.
Oh.
So I'm so excited for it to come on Apple. I'm so excited for John to see it because he didn't read it. And I'm saying to him, well, this isn't like the book at all. And I know that for TV adaptations, the visual medium of television or movies is so different than reading. Of course they're going to be different. But I feel like they didn't leave me with that, did he, didn't he?
Yes.
I felt like we just feel like he did.
See, I think so, yeah.
So that's my complaint for the TV app. But it's a great series. It's
a great series. It is good.
It's worth watching if you haven't. And then you can be 100% participating in our conversation in 2 weeks when we talk with the librarian about the book and the series.
So when my kids were younger, I was just trying to look it up really quickly, I know it was Divergent, was a series, a book series, and then the movies came out. Then James Patterson, I believe it was James Patterson, wrote a youth series about these children that had been caged in a lab, and they all have wings. And so actually it was a good story, but I'm pretty sure it was James Patterson. I was trying to look it up really quickly. Then there was another one, I think it was called The Scorch Trials. And there was a series on that, and I think they made 3 of those movies out. But it was good because you're listening. So the kids, we would listen to it on Audible because we traveled a lot. And, 17 hours in the car one way is a long time.
2 books. That's 2 books.
And my kids love reading. So it was always fun to watch the movie, and then watching them as kids, no, they should have played it this way. And it's just funny to see how we've painted a picture in our mind. And so is it really different? I mean, it's all about opinion. It's all about perception. You think about, did the movie do a good job conveying what the author was really saying? Because, we see it through our own lens. Or did we do a better interpretation? But say and that's the beauty. There's not a right answer to that.
Yeah, and the beauty of reading to me is we all have a different imagination, and that's the difficulty in writing, is communicating the same thing to everybody, not letting us interpret so much into it. But we are all going to, through our lens and through our imagination, take different things away.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things I always love about it too, because that's why I like talking about books in detail, because I like finding what I missed.
Yes.
And what other people are getting. And then I love imparting what I'm getting that they're not.
And I like to see what were their favorite parts, or oh my gosh, so Kayla and I were reading a lot of books together. And she'd get on a series. And sometimes I like getting involved into the characters and following them. Who was the one who did Alex Cross? He was the detective, and Nana Mama was the...
Mm-hmm.
Was
that Patterson?
Was it? It might have been James Patterson. Along Came a Spider.
Yes, James Patterson.
So, yeah, we read a lot of those, but then towards the end, well, I don't know. He's might still be doing those, but later on in the series, it just like it's the same story.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same dynamic. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit different. So it's like the mystery doesn't become a mystery anymore.
And you move on. So I think, I mean, we both talked about the book Small Sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of those books. My mother and my grandmother ran a business together, and my mother did 7 a.m. to 2:30, 3:30 time period. And then my grandmother took over from 2:30, 3:30 into the evening so that they could cover people who needed early morning into the day. They were both electrologists, and into the night, people coming after work. And they passed that one book because one was working and one was going to be home, and one was going to be home when one was working. And I distinctly remember them being like, "Oh, where are you?"
Yes.
And they would shout something.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's not even the beginning of it.
Yes.
And it was so intriguing that when they put the book down, I read the book.
Yeah.
And this is a true story. This is courtroom documents. This is that unbelievable factor. And I just feel like I learned so much about myself as well as the world in reading. And I am glad that they are taking more and more books from, and bringing those stories to life.
Because there's some great stories.
Yeah, I think Big Little Lies, that is Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman. That was a great book adaptation. I think they did a fantastic job with that one.
I didn't see that.
You have to see Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. I got to write that down because you said Gone Girl is one I had to watch.
You had to watch. Well, I want you to read Gone Girl. I want you to read. You can even listen to the audiobook because I've listened to the audiobook as well as reading it.
Yeah.
But I'm a fast reader, so sometimes I can read the book faster than I can listen.
That's how I am too. I'm like, wait, what did she say?
And the reveal in that one is so much earlier in the book, and then you get the reveal, and you go, and then you look at how much you have left.
I know. You're like, wait,
because normally the reveal is at the end.
What is it called? Big Little Lies.
Yes. And I loved that adaptation of that series. I think that's really good. But we should talk a little bit about. So speaking of big reveals.
Oh wait, just real quick.
Yeah.
Did you ever read Patricia Cornwell's Kay Scarpetta series?
I've read some of them.
So to me, when I was, maybe 14 or 15, and we were plowing through those books because she's a crime scene investigator, and she's talking about like the body farm down in Virginia, and everything goes back to there, like right around DC area, and what's the FBI training center down at FBI?
Quantico?
Yes, Quantico. But so she also loves to cook, and so a lot of times she will tell you what she's cooking in the thing, and sometimes her recipe's in the back. And I remember, like as a kid, she was cooking pizza on the grill, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to try that!" But my parents were like, "I'm not gonna do that." But to me, that was one of the endearing. Like, I want to be a crime scene investigator. The way that she can put all the pieces together from just microscopic evidence, and one thing leads to another. And I was like, that was fascinating to me.
So if you've never read Small Sacrifices by Anne Rule, read Small Sacrifices by Anne Rule. It is so amazing. And part of it is
that Diane Downs with her kids? Yeah.
Yes.
She was a train wreck.
She
worked at the post office, right? And she fell in love with
another person that worked at the post office, and he had rebuked her saying
he didn't want kids.
I didn't want kids. So she translated that into she was going to kill all her kids and blame someone for carjacking her
on the side of the road.
On the side of the road, and that's where the story opens. And
that's only the world that we grew up in. That was what was happening, and our parents were reading those books. And
you know what I was just saying to John when he was talking about something? I said, we watched at school the space shuttle take off, blow a teacher up, as well as 7 other people, we just went on with math.
And they roll it in on the cart.
They rolled it in on the cart. They blew up. They rolled the cart out, and we went back to math.
Yes.
On the board. Like, no one was even like, let's talk about the fact that you just witnessed the most grave murder.
Yes.
And go on your day. You're 7 or however old we were, 12 or whatever we were. So that was the world we grew up in. And
I don't remember how old I was there, but I do remember rolling in elementary school. I was in 5th grade, and they had rolled it in to watch one of the spaceships take off.
So what I think is amazing is they psyched us up so much about this teacher, and then this teacher died with all these other astronauts, and then we never had another conversation about it. And it was like, can we have a word? Can we have a word? I'm not saying bring a therapist in, maybe.
Like, get over your trauma.
Well, they didn't even
What's
acknowledge
trauma?
it as trauma. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, that was the world we grew up in. But speaking of reveals, we now have the opportunity to advertise on Lisa and Robyn on the Mic. I'm going to hold this up to the world. We're going to post it on our social media page. If you are interested in advertising on the radio, you get not only radio, but you get all social media channels as well. So we're going to put it on our Instagram page and our Facebook page so you can see the offers. So we'll do that. And then we have another big reveal. So over the weekend.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're going for sponsorships because what we're trying to do is build community. We want to build community with businesses and products and services that we like, people that we like. We want to do business together so we can grow together. If you guys are interested, reach out to us. We'll post a flyer, and we are actually going to do some strolling today. We're going to check out some shops and see if you guys might be a good fit for us.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And we're going to do that, I think, for a while anyways, until we feel like we've got enough. We have like enough that we can organize and make sure that the businesses who are doing business with us are doing better businesses.
Yes.
For being with us.
Yes.
That's one of our goals because we're business people. We understand that.
Yes. So if you guys would like to have your name in lights on our show, reach out.
And through our voices.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because we're a lot of voices.
Hey, I have a...
I have to tell about the weekend.
Oh, yes.
Because we're on the reveal
I
part.
forgot.
So a couple of weeks ago... Robyn's spouse calls me on the phone and says, hey, I haven't been really great in letting Robyn know how amazing she is and how much I appreciate her and how much we love her. And Kayla's going off to dental school. And I just want to have, a surprise party. And I want to put pictures up and memories up so she knows, she's reminded of how much we all love her. And so I need some help. I'm like, well, what do you need help with these? And so he had so much done. And the only thing I didn't hear was food. And I'm like, so I'm trying to brainstorm with him. And he's telling me all the things Jonah won't eat. So after about a 20-minute conversation of, I can make this. No, I can make this. Because I'm thinking of everything in my party planning that I can make ahead.
Yes.
Right? So I go, should I get pizza? And he's like, pizza's great. So much for me cooking food for this party. Pizza's great.
You hit a winner.
Right. So then I wanted Brian, and that's why I called him and said, hey, can you do Amherst? Because we're doing this at her house. So then the next set of conversations was, how do I get her out of the house? And
that's the Burlington Mall.
Yeah. And so I came up with the Burlington Mall because I was like, she likes retail therapy. Because he had some ideas that included shopping, but they were for work or for business. And I said, we don't want to put her in a bad mood before the party on a Saturday. Yeah. But then it turns into keeping a surprise.
Yes.
When you communicate with this person 100 times a day.
Well, so let's just back up. He tells me, so Saturday morning we're sitting around the pool. It's nice. It's hot. And we have to go to, I was told, and I got it on my Google Calendar to accept the invite, that we were going to this guy's 70-year-old, he was turning 70, and he was having a surprise party at a go-kart track. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool to be 70 and do your go-kart. I'm like, okay. So he had gone out that morning, and he said, I'm going to go get kitty litter, and I'm going to go wash the truck. So I figured he's going to go through the car wash. I'm like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes most. Like an hour goes by, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe he's on the phone because he can, he'll cruise if he's on a serious conversation. He'll just ride around. I give it a little more time. It's like an hour and a half, now like 2 hours. And I'm like, now we only have like 30 minutes or so, almost 45 minutes before we have to leave. Like, I thought we were spending the day together. So I'm starting to question, like, what is going on? So he comes back out. He comes out to the pool in his swimsuit and gets in, and he's like, hey, I got some good news and some bad news.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
and
about
he's
this.
like, we're not going to the, he was like, the bad news, he's like, well, the good news is we have the whole day free now. But the bad news is, because we're not going to the go-kart racing, the bad news is Carl got into an accident going over to his daughter's house. And I'm like, what? And he's like, but he's fine. He's okay. And I'm like, well, did they total the car? Did he go to the hospital? He's like, I don't know all those details. I don't know. And so he's like very quickly trying to change the conversation.
Because it's a lie.
And he's trying to be really cool. But like looking back now that I know what I know. So, and then he says, hey, so we're floating around in the pool and he's like, hey, how about we go down to the Burlington Mall? He's like, I want to get some shorts. I want to look for some things. And he's like, maybe we can find something nice for you. And I'm like, oh, what? Okay. And he's like, how about we head out now? I'm like, oh, okay. Because, you know, my last year's word was surrender. I'm trying not to like, well, just,
Right.
Okay, whatever. I don't want to change the energy. We're going to have a good space.
So, but what that really includes is lots of lying, right? Because you're coordinating and trying to do all of this stuff. And we've got the group test going from 8 o'clock in the morning on what he thinks his time period is or time frames are versus his time frames,
Yes.
right? And I also have to work that day because there's a 3 family that's being shown only on Saturday at 11 o'clock up in Franklin,
the heck up
Milton,
in- yes.
New Hampshire. And so we're trying to do all this. And then I think, thank God I didn't have to cook because that would have been a disaster. So, you know, we're doing all this. I'm driving and, you know, texting and we're getting all this done. And so I didn't talk to you that day because there was only so much. I am terrible, especially with happened with my friend's 50th birthday party that her daughter was planning. So she started getting her spidey senses up that something was going on. And I had already lied to her like 3 times about how wrong she was. And she kept like coming in to, you know, question. But I think, you know, and then so I just stopped talking to her for a week. And so when we throw the party and she looks at me, she goes, this is why you've been one word weird texting me. I'm like, I couldn't lie any longer. Just leave it alone. So in your perspective, normally we talk first thing in the morning. We send a text off or whatever. And you said, I didn't hear from Lisa at all. I'm like, I had enough lying.
I know. And I even said to Chris, I haven't heard from Lisa today. And he's like, well, she's probably busy. And I'm like, you're right. They might be going.
But that's another spidey senses thing.
I know. And Kayla's like, stop sharing GPS. And I see the door going open in and out. I see the garage door on my phone just open, close. And then he's texting on the way down, and he's been really good about not texting and driving, and he can't Siri it. And I'm like, oh, that's weird because he's not voice replying to text messages. So I was like, whatever. You know, it's Saturday. You know, he's, you know, contractor. So then we're at the mall, and we're just walking. He's still texting, and I said to him, I'm like, who's got you? I'm like, what's got you, babe? And he's like, nothing, just, I don't even know what he's saying.
And he's not good at lying.
He's like, do you want to shake?
Get you some cream. Put this
He's
in
not
your
a good liar. And
He's
that's why he
not.
just goes, you want some ice cream? I said, I'll have some of yours. I'm going to go to the bathroom. And so he comes back and he's got 2 of them. But it was a very sweet, sweet, beautiful day. And man, it just made me think about how we should celebrate the people that we love. Like, what a great
for
idea.
no reason. And so
yes.
trying to explain to John what we're doing, he's like, is it her birthday? I thought her birthday was in August. I'm like, it's not her birthday. So what are we doing? We're just having a party for her. Yes, we're celebrating Robyn.
It's your unbirthday.
Yeah. And I think I always joke, don't really even get me flowers on Valentine's Day. I want flowers on a Tuesday in September.
Yes.
You know, the holiday, someone telling you have to do something for me, I'm not interested.
Right. That's commercialized.
But one thing that my spouse has always been great at is, you know, I love Swedish fish, and he's always like, don't eat that junk. But then he's like, I think you have something between your teeth. And I go, oh, and I lower the visor to look at my teeth, and Swedish fish. A bag of Swedish fish falls.
Yeah,
and that
so
to me
yes.
is, you know.
Yes. I see you.
That is just, I thought of you. I know you love, you know, like there is so much of that. And we do that at the beginning of relationships because we're in the woo phase. But it's important to do them when you're together 20 years, 30 years. That's how you stay. When you ask people how they're together for long periods of time, and the answer isn't, well, we have kids.
Yeah.
You know, which can
in the
be
detail.
an answer for a while.
I think that the most beautiful moments in life happen in the details.
Yes.
And
in the moments.
Big things happen too, but it's just that connection. And I think that I do believe the more that I am learning and growing, the more that I realize, or how important it is to keep that. Like, you can create anything that you want, and it's so important to share our love and express our love and create that space.
And I think celebrating it. And so
Yes.
once we got there and, John's like, tell me what to do, and he's blowing up balloons and doing all these other things. He's like, we should do it. I'm like, this would have been great yesterday. I didn't say that.
Yes.
But then I forget how good he is at details,
Yeah.
right? I was just like, don't worry, we have this. But once he knew what was happening, he was like, oh, this would be great. And I'm like thinking next time. We'll do
Yes.
something and it'll be next time. We should do this all the time.
I have to say, I was totally caught off guard because we never go in the front door, and my hands were full.
And the other thing, too, is when everyone's like, what do you think? Is this good? I'm like, she's going to cry. In a good way. The good
Yes.
tears.
And I actually was thinking, like, so when I was walking out, and I saw my son's head pop up past the window, and all I could say was like, well, Kayla's home, Kayla's home, so maybe maybe he's doing that for her. Or Logan had come over. He and Logan are doing something together or something. Like, and it dawned on me in that moment, like, as I was processing it, I'm like, I certainly wasn't watching the video back. I was like, I certainly wasn't one of those people like, oh my God, thank you. Looking back at it, I can see my own resistance of feeling like, I've never experienced that before. I don't think I've ever had a surprise party, ever.
You know
And
why? Because
it was
it's
a lot
impossible.
of love being focused on me, and so I could see my resistance of like, nah, I don't want that attention. I don't
'Cause
want the attention on me, but oh my God, this is gonna make me cry.
Because you did that. What's all this? What's
Yeah.
all this? And
Yes.
it's like, it's you. It's your relationships. It's everyone who loves you. It's it was what you give us back at you.
Oh my goodness. I love you guys. It's just such a beautiful thing. We should celebrate. We should celebrate the people that we love way more often.
And because you are orchestrating lives, right? That's what moms do and wives do. And, or the person in your group, it's not necessarily always wives and moms, but the person who knows everything about everybody, it's impossible to surprise them because they know everything and there's no space for there to be anything but
Yes.
them orchestrating stuff. And they don't let go of control easy and all that other stuff because normally they're orchestrating
That
stuff.
is true.
So if you've ever tried to throw a surprise party and it's gone poorly, it's because of this. So if someone's having a big birthday, maybe let them know that there's a party, but 6 months before or after,
Yes.
give them the,
Yes.
because that's when it's easier to surprise. If we did this on your birthday, it would have been a million times more difficult because you knew your birthday was coming up.
Yes.
But your spidey senses were up at some points because you're like, what is
Yes.
going on?
Yes.
Because something's different. That's intuition.
Yes, and looking back, it's just I think you just see idiosyncrasies and just things that are just out of like, oh, that's not normal. Like, that's not normal. And Chris and I were talking about it, how there's two different types of I'm going to butcher it. Two different types of people. There's people that will tell you and give you directions, go do this, and this, plowing forward. There's other people that will say, to help you move forward, they'll say, well, here's what to look out for. Here's the roadblocks. And I am that person. He's like, and you're like that. And I'm like, oh, yes, I am. And I found myself doing it after he said it. And I said, well, what I would do, he asked me for his advice. And I said, well, what I would do is this. And I walked him through here's where I see an issue. Here's where you're going to have a bump. Here's where you're going to have a hurdle. And he's like, see, there's two different people. And I think those people are, I think I do it in order to help me feel secure or to help me feel grounded. Because I think stepping out is scary. And sometimes people are like, well, the less I think about it and just do it, there's no right or wrong answer to it. And just like being able to acknowledge that we both just come at it from different perspectives. But it does make somebody like that very hard to plan for.
Right. And then when I think of my other friend that we threw my friend's daughter threw her party for, at her side, her senses were up, a month in advance. I hope they don't throw me a surprise party because I don't want to be like. And then it was just like, no one's going to do that. Who's going to do that on the 50th? Everyone knows that's the 50th,
Yes.
And then it turned into, you're trying to coordinate and all of that stuff. And there's an immense amount of either lies by omission or active lying. And when you're in a relationship, it's hard to do that because you know each other so well that you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah. What?
So surprises are so hard.
That is true.
Surprises are so hard. But when you get them, they feel ultra satisfying.
Yes.
Ultra satisfying.
Yes.
So I'm glad we got you.
That was very sweet. Very, very sweet.
And it was great to like hang up the pictures. And so what Chris did was he said to me, I want to hang pictures of our life on a clothesline with clothespins. He said, hang them from the trees. And so we had strings hanging down with all pictures, clothespin to it. Then we had pictures around the pool hung with clothespins of different sizes.
It's beautiful just to be able to walk back and see so many great memories.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to, and I think that I've been using photos for a long time to raise my vibration.
Absolutely.
I always go back, and it's so hard to be in a bad mood when you go back through your camera roll. So sometimes I use that as a reset for me because I'm like, man, you just think about that time we were in Aruba and. I made a post because we were in Aruba for our 50th, celebrating our 50th, and we had rented a Jeep and went down to the national park. So we go check in at the visitor center to get a map because there are a couple places that we specifically wanted to see. So we didn't care about the other side of the island so much. We wanted to go down by where the waters and the caves are. So there was this family. College-age son and two older. His parents were older, maybe in their 70s. They were kind of hanging around outside, and I forgot we had said hi to them. Then we left and went down. We went around this one short little loop, and we came back. And we saw them walking the road, and that's a long way, and it's beginning of September, Aruba hot. It's hot. And you're not near the water.
It's equator hot.
Yes, it is equator hot. And it's pavement and scrub. There's no, you're in the national forest there.
Desert.
Yeah, it's like the desert. So the kid flags us down and he said, hey, would you guys be willing to give us a ride? So come to find out they're from Colombia. They wanted to go down to this one beach.
Lisa doesn't give rides to anybody. Go ahead. Tell your story.
So we go down to this one path where they wanted to go, and it was a big beach, but you can't get in the water. Literally, when the spray hits, you can see the spray come up over top of the cliffs. Like, it is, you would die. So, they're still in the middle of nowhere. Where are you guys going to go? And they're like, oh, we're going to walk to this next point. You're fine. It was a different direction than we were going. Like, okay, as long as you're fine. We had packed a cooler, given them some water bottles, and just a great, great family. Anyway, so we're getting ready to leave. I'll take a picture and with them to memory. So I said to Chris, I'm going to post that later and just I'm going to send it to my mom. I'm going to just send a text message to my mom and say, hey, we were hiking today and we picked up some Colombians.
I'm traumatized by Scarface.
He's like, don't do that to your mother.
Was Scarface Colombians?
I have no idea.
Oh, all I think of is the chainsaw scene in the bathroom.
I just think of the mafia when I think about that.
See, I think of cocaine.
Machine guns and yes, like the Jeeps, and they're all riding on the Jeeps with their camos on and bandanas and no shirts and Uzis and
Tony Montana.
Yeah.
So I don't pick up. I'm not a hitchhike person. I saw a hitchhiker with.
Well, they were like 70. I felt like we could take them.
Oh, yeah, you could.
So,
sure.
But it was funny. We saw them on the way back when we were leaving. We gave them a ride back. So.
They might be a scrappy 70.
Well, and the kid was so sweet. He's in his 20s, and they were so hot, and they didn't have any water. So we gave him some more water, or we had picked up the parents first, and we're like, where's your son? And he's like, he's up ahead. He went to go and see if he could find somebody. And so we saw him maybe a half a mile ahead of them. And we told them to hide down in the seat. Mm-hmm. And I rolled the window down. I was like, hey, where are your parents? And he's like, they're back there. I'm like, I waited and see him on the road. And then his mom, and she's like 70, and her mom pops up in the back. And I'm like, and he was like, you got me good.
Yeah.
You got me good.
Yeah, I saw the movie Hitchhiker with Tommy somebody. I'll look it up at the break. But he picks up a hitchhiker and 2 hours
All
of
hell breaks
horror breaks loose. And I read all of those true crime, Ted Bundy. I read all of that. And so you could be 100-year-old old lady on the side of the road, and I'm going to call 911 for you, and the police are going to come, and I'll stand over here and make sure no one kidnaps you, but not getting in my car. Like, that's how. And it's funny because I plow the park and ride at the bus station.
Yeah.
And for a while in COVID, they just had no one there. So you would get off the bus and you'd be waiting either for another bus. And for a while, they weren't even open. There's a vestibule that could keep you out of the elements. And then there was this elderly woman who gets off, and I just immediately call the state police, and I said, hey, there's the vestibule's not open. Can someone come? Just put her in the car, because they were always there anyways.
Yeah.
So they came over. But here I am driving around in a circle like, I can't believe. I'm like, I wonder how long it would take the state police not to show up for me to put her in my car. Against all of my, lady, don't make me stab you. What are you talking about?
Well, I was driving down 101 towards your house the other day, and there was a guy on the side of the road, and he was hitchhiking. And, I mean, he looked decent, but I'm like, I'm so sorry. I felt bad. It's like when you see, when you run over an animal, and, when you run over a frog or something or a squirrel, you can't do anything about it. It's dead. And you're kind of like,
I know, you just feel terrible.
That's how I feel about it. But I was like, dude, that would make his day if I picked him up in a Porsche.
Right.
Where do you want to go?
And then I would, verbally flog you for taking someone in
Chris
your
is
vehicle.
Like, Robyn, don't you dare. I'm like,
you
I
dare.
didn't.
But so my whole thing is, that's why we have the police. That's why we have, especially when you're in a city environment.
Yeah.
There are people who are equipped to deal with that.
But do you call the police when somebody's walking between,
No.
Bedford to Manchester?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. But if
side
there's
of 101,
if there's something where you're like, oh, I feel like I have to
yes,
help this person.
Yes.
I remember being in a Macy's, and there's this woman crying hysterically in the bathroom with her kid. And she was like, will you give me a ride? And it was really far, like Hampton. This was when Macy's was in Bedford. And I was like, no, I can't give you a ride, but I'll get you help. I'll give you money so we'll cab you there. And she's like, I really want you to drive me. I really feel comfortable with you driving me. And I'm like, even though she had a kid there, I read Diana Downs.
Oh, yes.
That was not swaying me in the least bit. I did give her money, and I said, well, I can help you call the cab, or you can call in on your own. And I gave her money, and she didn't have me call a cab with her. But I really thought at that moment, something bad would have happened. I did give her the money, but...
Yeah, your spidey sense.
My spidey sense. And then there was definitely that cementing in. I'm not giving anyone a ride.
Yeah. You get in my ride.
For the next 50 years. I'm not putting you in my car.
You're going to need me a Versace bag or something if you're going to ride with me.
No.
But I'll give you 20.
Yeah. I'm like, it depends on how much I really think I can take you, I think. I remember one guy. I'll tell the story when we get back after the top of the hour. You were listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM.
WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.live.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. Uvalde, Texas police officer Adrian Gonzalez has pleaded not guilty to charges stemming from the 2022 Robb Elementary School shooting. Gonzalez is one of nearly 400 law enforcement personnel who responded to the scene but waited more than an hour to confront the shooter. He's accused of abandoning and failing to protect the children who were killed and wounded. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi praising President Biden's speech to the nation from the Oval Office. She told an event for Democratic women today.
Last night, we saw President Joe Biden talk about his legacy, which frankly is our legacy, too. The House Democrats passed those occasionally bipartisan, hopefully more so in the future.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visiting the White House today. It'll be his first visit there since before Donald Trump left office in 2020. Nation's economy growing last quarter at a strong 2.8% rate, stronger than most economists thought. This is ABC News. In one of the final appearances of his career, Andy Murray is withdrawn from Olympic singles play.
Hobbled with a host of injuries, the latest assist removed from his spine right before Wimbledon, Murray made the decision right before the draw came out. Play is scheduled to begin on Saturday. His focus now concentrating on the doubles. The 37-year-old won singles gold medals in London in 2012 and in Rio 4 years later, making him the only tennis player with two. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
Migrant apprehensions appear to be on the decline in the U.S. as Customs and Border Protection announced their lowest members since President Biden took office. New data from Homeland Security showing migrant encounters down 55% since the administration's new asylum restrictions took effect in June. Former Uvalde school police officer is expected to plead not guilty in court today. Charges of failing to protect students during the 2022 shooting. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Everyone on the road is trying to make it to their destination safely. You can help by staying aware of the large trucks and buses around you. They take longer to stop, have large blind spots, and make wide turns that require caution from other drivers. It takes all of us working together to share the road safely. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
I am Elena Dries, nurse practitioner at Altrix Primary Care, located right here in Nashua, New Hampshire at 57 Northeastern Boulevard. At Altrix Primary Care, we are dedicated expert nurse practitioners who provide high-quality, comprehensive primary care services for people of all ages, from newborns to older adults. Our nursing model of care is distinctive because it's unhurried, high-personalized, easily accessible healthcare for you and your family. Visit us online at altrixpc.com/Nashua or give us a call at 603-821-4009. That is 603-821-4009. Altrix Primary Care, changing the future of primary care for you and your family.
Have you tried to quit drinking before, and much to your surprise and dismay, you couldn't? Have you tried therapy, meetings, and treatment programs, but still can't seem to stay stopped? Or maybe you live in fear that you'll lose your job, your home, or your family, and much more if you don't get this figured out, and soon. Well, there is hope. My name is Bill Nielsen, and I'm the founder of Nascent 24 Recovery and Life Coaching, and I struggled for over a decade. Yup, 10 years, trying to get it right. I lost jobs, 5 six-figure jobs in fact, homes, friends, relationships. I thought I'd never get off the merry-go-round or the roller coaster, but I did, and I've developed a proven proprietary process that works. Why does it work? Because it addresses the root cause and not the symptoms. No more Band-Aids on bullet wounds. It's a 12-week journey that will transform your entire life, not just the drinking thing. I work one-on-one with every single client, and your privacy and anonymity are paramount. The great part is that you don't have to leave your home, your job, or your family. Text me the word recovery to 203-241-1266. That's 203-241-1266. Or visit my website, nascent24.com, NASCENT24.com. There is a solution. Take the first step. You won't regret it.
Hi Nashua, I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Are you wondering, how can my business expand its reach? Or how can I support music and arts in my community? Well, I'm glad you asked. My name is Cody, and I'm from the Nashville Community Music School, and I'm here to talk about all the wonderful opportunities to partner with us. Whether you want to become a VIP table sponsor of our biggest concert event of the year, Play It Forward, or by joining our band of donors by donating only $5 a month, we'd love to be able to speak with you and show how we can partner to make music accessible to all. Give us a call at 603-881-7030 or shoot us an email at info@nashuacms.org.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN, 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, Facebook, as well as YouTube. Welcome back, Robyn.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Funny story about hitchhiking or being the fear of being abducted. The constant fear. We are at Bike Week. There's a group of us. We're all riding. We stop on the side of a scenic area. The area that the guy's taking pictures of you going fast. And my brother-in-law rescues a turtle from the highway. Oh. And it's so significant because we just meet one of his friends for the first time. And his friend is Joe. And I want Joe to come on the radio because he is an amazing storyteller. Every single story that he tells is hilarious because it's the way he tells them.
Yes.
That makes him such a great storyteller.
Yes.
Love Joe. But when we first met him, he needs to warm up to us.
Can we get him?
I'm going to ask him, actually. I actually told my in-laws that I want him on, and they're like, he'd be great on. So we're going to warm him up to that idea. So, but no promises, but I hope he comes on. He's got great stories. I feel like he could just tell boat stories all day long. His boat stories are great. So we meet Joe, and Joe just proceeds to tell us turtle facts. But
I like turtles.
But out of with no context, like, so we're riding, we're side by side. We get introduced, and everyone's introducing us, and then we're side by side. And as we go to take off the red light, he says, turtles have 106 bones in their body, or whatever, fact he's reciting. He's like the Discovery Channel. And so we just take off laughing. And so this happens the whole day. And then, of course, my brother-in-law rescues a turtle. And as we're rescuing this turtle and we're on the side of the road, the guy who's taking pictures comes over and starts talking to us. And then he says to my sister-in-law and I, who are the two small females of the group, "Hey, you want to come over and see something at my van?" And the two of us go, "Yeah."
Why, yes, I do.
No, he says, "Do you want to see something cool in my van?" Okay. So then as we're walking away, 100 feet down the road with this guy, my sister-in-law yells, "And we're going to the van with a stranger." And everyone's talking. And so he makes a comment, and I said, "Dude, we're both going to take you and bundle you and throw you in the van. What do you got?"
I'm not scared.
So he starts to tell us the story about how, he's out here all the time taking pictures, and he was following a bald eagle, and a bald eagle landed on this tree, and he said he looked at me, and he let me know I was going to get the picture. And he let me raise my camera. And as I rose my camera, he started flying out. And then he showed us the picture, which he had blown up into this beaut thing. And he's like, "Do you believe that? Do you believe that I had this moment with this bald eagle?" And I was like, "I actually 100% believe that." And I wanted to buy it from him, but he wouldn't release it at the time. And I called him a couple of times to see if he'd sell it to me, and he's not going to sell it to me. He really felt such an intimate connection at that moment.
Sold. You got me right in the feels.
And he said it was like the bird was telling me to take the picture, and he knew how majestic he looked, and he was posing. And it does look like this amazing fake picture. It's so beautiful. but that's my.
That's awesome.
I would go to his van
Yes.
because I thought I could totally bundle him.
Why, yes. Animals, money, clothes.
Well, I love that.
I think
if
I
you've
can
ever
withhold on the
seen that,
chocolate.
it's probably a TikTok video, and it's a man who's off screen, and there's a young girl, and she goes, "Can I go to the mall or can I go to the park?" And he says, "Well, maybe. What are you going to do if a stranger pulls up to you?"
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna
She wears her bunny ears, and she has the bunny. She's like always wearing like a long bunny hat.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh
Okay, maybe I don't
I'll
remember
send
that
it to you.
detail. Okay, and she says, "Great, I love meeting new people." And he goes, "No, you don't talk to strangers." And she
Yes.
goes, "Okay, I won't. What if they offer you candy?" "Oh, great, I love candy."
Yes,
No, you're not going to get candy.
I follow her. I love her.
And then the father says, "What if what if he says he'll give you money? Scoot over, I'm getting in."
Yeah.
You know? So that's my husband and I's shorthand about stuff that I'm not supposed to do.
Yes.
He says, "And what if they offer you money? Scoot over, I'm getting in." Or, what if they offer you
Yes.
candies? What if they have a puppy? They have a puppy. Oh my God, I love dogs. Scoot over, I'm getting in. Because I always joke, my whole thing was the puppy.
Yes.
If anyone had said
Animals,
a
yes.
puppy, I would have been in the van.
I do
or a
believe we
book.
told that story. We took a puppy that had gotten out of the cage, out of their pen at elementary school, and it was wandering around, and my sister and I convinced the bus driver to let us take it home. Of course,
It wasn't his
hard
house.
stop right there when Dad's standing there, and he's like, "Where'd you get that dog?" So back to the school we go.
With the puppy in
All
hand.
right.
I used to feed a dog because I used to be the one to do the food shopping in my household. My mother hated the supermarket, so I used to walk down to the supermarket and carry home what I could carry home in a bag. But I used to get cash, so I also used to buy Magic Middle cookies. And I'd buy, well, I'm going to feed dogs this week. I used to walk to school, and there was a Siberian Husky. I thought it was a Siberian Husky, but it was probably that other breed. Very similar, but much chunkier fur.
Oh, not the new.
Not Akita. I'll look it up.
I'm not Saint Bernard, but it's
Oh no, he looks exactly like a Siberian Husky
yes,
breed.
it's I can't remember the name of it.
But he used to be out in the cold, and I used to feel so terrible, and I used to pet him through the
Burmese.
Nope. He looks exactly like a Siberian Husky. Dogs who look like Siberian Husky. And I used to pet him through the fence, chain link fence, because he was outside all the time.
Yes.
And I was buying him treats. So now not only was I petting him, but I would stick a bone through the door.
Get cookies and cookies for him too.
And let's see,
So-
the Samoa Malamute. It was a Malamute.
Malamutes.
And of course, now that I have bones in my bag, and this was back when stray dogs used to run free, I got a stray dog, and it followed me to school. I fed it. I don't know if it communicated with the Malamute and said, "Hey, this chick has things," but
Picking
he
up a
was
phone.
waiting one day. Like, I give one to the dog behind the fence, and now I give one to the stray dog, who then follows me to my school. And I'm like, "Okay, see ya." And then I come out at 2:30, and he's in the exact spot that I left him. So I take him home, and he follows me home. I'm like, "Come with me," and he's like, "Okay, scoot over, following you."
I tried to do that in Cabo, and that did not go over so well.
And so I'm on my front stairs, and my mother's like, "We have a cat. Get rid of the dog." And I'm like, "Well, he could live outside. He's going to wait for me wherever I am."
Right.
And she starts yelling for the dog to go. And I was just like,
Did
"Oh."
you? Well, so our neighborhood, we had a stray dog. It was a 3-legged, like
And to be fair to my mother, I would have had 75 more animals within the next month. It wasn't her fault for shooing away the stray dog. I was constantly rescuing things.
Yes, yes. Had we lived in a more populated area, so we decided as a neighborhood we were going to name this dog Trixie, and so we was going to just spend the night at whoever's house, and it'll just rotate.
Community dog.
Yes. So everybody was taking turns feeding it from, because we all had dogs growing up. I think it stayed around for like a week or so, and then we didn't know where it was. So I have a funny story about getting kidnapped.
Okay.
Getting abducted. The attempt. So we were down. We had a dinner event down in Boston. And a couple of people after the event decided, this one guy pipes up and says, "Hey, let's go to this place over here that I know. And, it's like $1,500 to reserve your table if you want to be in the front of it. And there's like a fence, like a fence with people's banners on it, like petitioned off. So like this is the front of the stage. So we walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool. The music's thumping and there's a big dance floor area, and up front is behind that gate. It's all these people and it's so jam packed. So I'm like, okay, somebody's going to come out. Like we're going to do a live thing, because right now there's this big bunny doing a DJ thing with the music mix. Well, we were at a mosh pit. And I said to Chris, how cool could that be? You know, like you're in your late 40s and go down to a mosh pit. What'd you do? So this guy had gotten us a private space, and it was like it's on like a little platform thing, and it has couches there, and they come over and they bring your Tito's and like different chasers that you want to do with it. It's all like in a big
drug you drinks.
Yes, big bucket thing, and so you have your own waitress for the evening. Or so we're standing on the three girls were standing on the edge of the stage and just kind of platform watching the stage. The guys are all talking, and I had said to Chris, come on, let's go dance. And he's like, just wait. Next thing I know, I turn back around, and this guy grabs me by my hand, pulls me off the stage, and he's like, la, la, la. You know, it's so loud. And he's like, let's go dance. So we are right up in the front. And I'm like, I'm dancing with him, and now all of a sudden I'm like, you're getting a little close. And he's got bad body odor. So I go to walk off, and he goes to grab my hand and tries to pull me back. And he did that like 3 times, and I was like, I finally just put my hand up. I'm like, I'm good. And next, I come back, and Chris is like, I have been looking everywhere for you. Where have you been? I'm like, you didn't see that guy? I just got kidnapped. He's like, you didn't get kidnapped because you'd be going that way, not towards the stage. I was like, well, maybe it was just a small abduction.
Well, you start on the stage, and then they bring you backstage.
And I was like, you should have been watching me. And he's like,
I can't find you. You're too tiny. You just get lost in the crowd like that. Someone put you in a pocket.
He's like, don't do that again.
I remember back in the day when we were bar aged, it was don't let someone roof you. Don't let someone bring you a drink.
Yes.
It was like, oh, did you bring me that drink? That's great.
Yes.
Did you pay $8 for it? Let me toss it in the trash.
No. Why? We had that down at like Goodnight John Boys when we were down there. And I just
like, throw that away.
The minute I set my drink down, it's like these 4 people come, like nobody was around. Like now I don't feel like safe to touch my drink.
No, throw that away. I just spent $14. Throw it away.
Come on, there's some creepy characters there. Like, you know, I don't, the fur mink, like long hair, like the long oxen, you know, where it's all tangled and matted, you know.
Wildebeest?
Yes. And she's got like an old like 1950s skirt on with like a patchwork quilt.
And I don't even trust women. People joke around that they think of only guys. I think women lure women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the whole thing with Jeffrey Epstein and what was her name?
Well, shoot, look at Charles Manson.
With all those girls,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't trust women either.
Yes.
Don't trust anybody.
So I heard a good thing, because I always say curiosity kills judgment. Now I don't remember where. People who are curious are less furious.
Was that Annie Jacobson?
I don't know if it was her or the book we were doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me, my life is waiting.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard. If you're curious, you're open-minded.
Yes.
And judgment is closed-minded.
Well, yes, judgment is you already have a preconceived idea. You already have a belief system.
And I do think judgment serves us in a lot of ways. It keeps us from going in the van.
Absolutely. Yes.
Keeps us from being abducted. It keeps us from drinking the roofie drink when possible. So
Yes.
I'm not 100% against it.
Well, it's meant to keep us safe, but for like opinions, dialogue, thoughts, and that kind
genuine interaction.
Yes, that kind of judgment. Like we're so
our spouse, our
Yes.
children.
Yes. True. I'm like, it's easier to judge them because you already know them. So like when they do something out of the norm. But I feel like I've tried to live my life to not, well, other than my kids and my family, you know, my judgment reigns, but.
Well, it's interesting because I think I'm a people person.
Yeah.
Versus a thing, where my spouse is a thing. He cares about things. He could talk to you about an engine at your party. He's talking him and Logan get
Yes.
together, and they're off in their own engine
Yes.
world. And then Jonah comes over to me because he's people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I'll say something and he has no interest. And I remember, oh, it's because it's not a thing.
Yes.
And
yes.
so because I'm I'm really interested in people. If you want to talk about the brand new engine or the brand new thing, he's all ears. But it's funny what we open to.
Experiences. Like your people, I think people that are curious about other people instead of like things. I think we are curious we're operating in our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Operating our emotions more. So you are curious because I think that we're always looking for some kind of vibration, if that makes sense. Because you're looking to connect. You're looking to bond. You're looking to learn. Because why else do you reach out to people? Like, why do you connect with people? That's right. Like, why do we get so angry at other people? Because they don't share the same opinion.
Right. Well, I think it's really easy to get angry because we think connection only happens in commonalities.
Yes.
I'm connected to you because you agree with me.
Yes.
So we have a connection.
Yes.
Instead of connecting to someone on something other than, so there has to be some kind of value system there, but sometimes shared experience. You know, when two people get in a plane crash and then there's some survivors, those people may have nothing in common, but they have the strong bond,
they
the
have
connection.
an emotional bond. So when you boil it all down,
they have one common experience.
Yes. And sometimes maybe it's not we have the same opinion and that's why we're bonded. But I think the truth of the matter is maybe it's more not about so much the words, is that I'm having a hard time being seen. And so they feel seen when somebody relates to them.
Yes, we were just talking to a friend, and he said, I have something to ask you. He's married. And he said, I know someone has a crush on my wife. And when I tried to bring it up, you know, they're like, oh, you're jealous. And he acknowledged that maybe it seems like there's some jealousy, but how does he interact with that, right? And we said you can approach the guy and be like, I know she's cute. That's why I love her. Isn't she amazing? Yeah. But kind of like...
Chris always says, if you can afford her, you can have her.
Which makes all guys go, whoa, hands off. I don't want more bills.
And he's like, I don't mean financially.
Good luck.
I was like, good point. High five. I was like, well, there might be a little truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like I don't like to say high maintenance. I run hot. But why not? I mean, why wouldn't you? I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to be lukewarm.
Well, I
don't want to be stale hot dog water.
I don't want to be stale toast. Right? I would rather you dislike me actively than be like, oh, who even cares?
Yes. I hate that lukewarm. That's why I was like, lukewarm hot dog water.
Yes.
That's just, ugh.
But it's so funny that you say hot dogs. So I bought hot dogs because my nephews loved hot dogs. So I bought the Costco size hot dogs. They wouldn't eat hot dogs. They wanted ham this time. And now, so I have been feeding my poor spouse hot dogs multiple times. We haven't had hot dogs in a year. We've had, 20 hot dogs in the last week.
Eating them up.
I'm never going to have hot dogs again for another year.
Mm-hmm.
But so that you bring up hot dog water is hilarious because I just had hot dogs last night. Again.
I'm telling you, I made a rocking dinner last night. I took the thin chicken cutlets and I pounded them even a little bit thinner. They're almost paper thin. And then I spread some Boursin cheese on it, or Alouette. It's like garlic and herb. It's like a whipped cream cheese kind of stuff. So I spread that on top. First, I salt and peppered my chicken breasts on both sides. Put the garlic spread down. Put some mozzarella on top of that, and then I just rolled it up. And then I wrapped another piece, and then I wrapped a piece of prosciutto on top of that. And I baked that in the oven. And twice I just brushed butter on top of the prosciutto so that it would just kind of get nice and crispy and just a browned, beautiful.
Some moisture.
So then I took angel hair pasta. Well, I sauteed a little bit of garlic, olive oil, crushed red pepper, and some oregano in the pan, and just started to wait till my garlic got browned. I added a little bit of lemon. Did a little bit of lemon juice, and then I added a little more butter, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of chicken broth, and a little bit of Alfredo sauce. Like Alfredo sauce meaning, because I didn't have any creme fraiche, I would have done that. I thought sour cream might have been too harsh. So maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of the Alfredo sauce, and poured that, just kind of thickened it just a little bit, and then I poured that over the noodles and tossed it all there, and then I added some cherry tomatoes in that, and then I laid the chicken on top of that. I'm like, man,
that sounds fantastic.
It is amazing. I think I took a picture of the finished product, so I'll post it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Super easy.
Yeah. What were you talking about before food?
Deja vu. Oh, what were we talking about? People, relationships.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about, so I said the thing about jealousy is it's reminding us, just like grief reminds us to love the people who are here. When you're really missing someone that's gone, there's nothing you can do about that. But you can remind the people here how much you love them.
Yes.
If you are jealous, so there's all kinds of jealousy. So say you're jealous of a person, for example, or maybe they're doing something that you wish you were doing.
Yes, take an office situation. So somebody feels like you're watching somebody feel like they're crushing it and killing it and, having all these great successes. So you're jealous of their success.
So then that's an indication that you feel somewhere in your world that you could be doing something that you're not.
That's that resistance. It's tapping you on the shoulder like, hey, your universe is out of alignment.
So say you see someone else's relationship and you're like, I'm so jealous of their relationship. It probably means you don't feel very connected in yours.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Or there's been something that you've been holding off. There's been something that you've been dropping the ball in. Because I do believe it's the little things that we do. It's the conscious things, because the little things are always are the conscious things.
They're
they're
consistent things. Doing something once every year, no big deal.
Yeah.
Unless it's a big deal thing, like a vacation or
Right.
something. But the way you live your life every day, if you have one vacation a year that you love, but you live the rest of the 359 days in a misery, 1 week isn't going to do it for you.
Well, it's like working Monday through Friday and hating your life and hating your week. And then Saturday gets here, or Friday night gets here, and you go out drinking and partying and spend money that you shouldn't spend because we're trying to get away from
undoing the
we're
misery.
feeling like, well, no, I'm anticipating. We look forward all week to get to Friday so that we can have our freedom. No, then there's got to be. Is there something that we can do to change that?
Yeah, because life is in all those other moments.
Right.
It's just not in the
Right.
big moments. So I think we think of emotions like you think of anger, you think of jealousy, you think of any kind of negative emotion word. They have use, I
Yes.
think, in a lot of ways. And so if you are there is something, if you use it properly and just don't let resentment eat you up, or because resentment is telling you have given too much and you don't get enough back.
Yes.
And you can attribute that to a person. Oh, I'm always doing whatever.
Yes.
However, you are either not caring for yourself or you are not towing a boundary that you
Yes.
said you were going to give.
Yeah.
So that's a one to, why am I feeling this way? It's not saying that the emotion is bad. Don't live in the emotion long
Right.
term.
Well, it's not like, so the words are there good for defining. Like, I like it when we talked about I like seeing it as it's resistance. It's the world saying, hey, something is out of alignment. Because I do believe that we all want to operate in
synergy.
Yes, peace, joy, harmony. We want to operate in those places where we can be curious, excited, and not stressed and worried about bills or worried about getting fired or, what you're going to do for dinner and how am I going to pay for this and all of life stresses. I think the negative words, if we can get to the point where we're always saying like,
Curious about them.
Well, yes, I'm
What are you
curious,
trying
like,
to tell me?
Yes. Wait, why? Pausing and saying, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel judgmental? What's the beautiful thing that we're doing right now is we're going through a workbook, and it has you make lists of, and it makes you bring up some yucky feelings inside of you, but writing all these down, but then finding you how you're working through all the junk, and it's taking you working all the way through the junk, and how you can embrace, and how these are red flags. It's like if the world could hold up a flag, hey, this is a yellow flag right here, or it's a red flag. Just simple things that we don't adopt every day, instead of living in it and just living in it and continuing to be bad. Like, do you not know that you have the power to change your life right this minute by one single thought? Like, that is what I want to share. That's a message like I want to spread, and be like, when you start getting into that vibration, you're like, yeah, I just want to avoid those feelings. Those are icky. I just want to be away from those. And you start gravitating more and more towards positive people and positive energy and things that are good. And you actually start believing, I think there's probably some people that listen and be like, what do you know? What are you talking about? You were, most of the world has to work Monday through Friday and blah, blah, blah. You could see the negativity in it. No, but what if you just allowed yourself for a minute, instead of judging, just to sit in it for a minute? Like, what if? Is there a way? And I think you just being able to ask yourself, what if, or is it possible?
Or what is this? When you have that feeling,
Yes.
what is this? Why?
Yes.
And then your first answer might not be the right answer, because that's your habitual answer.
But what you're doing to your brain and what you're doing to your chemistry is you're changing your DNA structure right at that moment of saying, I'm holding space for possibility. And the more that you hold space for possibility, more opportunity shows up. That's what I feel.
I also think
that's what I've experienced.
I'm a creative problem solver. It's what
Yes,
makes
you
me
are.
good at my job. But it also was born out of a trauma of having to solve difficult problems, some of which I would never solve. But I was always trying to solve them.
Yes.
So I was always trying to look at them from a different way, or come at them from a different angle.
Yeah, it's like your body's trying to make peace, make sense with.
Yeah, like what
and
is
how
this?
to navigate
How
it.
do I fix this?
Yes. Yes.
And what ends up happening at some point, you learn your lesson that I can't fix other people. I can't fix this problem. Now I know I can step away, and I can feel better about stepping away, because I know I've exhausted my resources for that particular thing. But I've also been known to drag dead horses up hills. And I do have a friend that says, are we dragging the dead horse up the hill? Because the horse is supposed to be there for you to ride, and you just
Yes.
dragged it up the hill trying to resuscitate it at the top of the hill, when you could have just left this horse at
Yes.
the bottom of the hill.
Yes.
But that's part of the full accountability that I always have for myself, is sometimes taking accountability on things I shouldn't take accountability
Yes.
for, because I'm
Yes.
responsible for everything.
Yeah.
The world lands on my shoulders.
Well, so yeah, it's funny. We were talking yesterday, and I said, I've noticed that for me, I have developed certain techniques. Remember, and it goes back to the roadblock. Like I'm the type of person that I'm going to tell you all the pitfalls. I'll lay out the roadmap for you, but here's the things to avoid.
These are your 15 landmines.
Yes.
Video
Go
game
here,
through
here, and here. And so I'm trying to save you. Like, I've already done it. And instead of like, yeah, just go ahead and do it. Like, I'm going to help you
Good
get
luck.
there. Yes.
I believe in you.
Yes. Now I totally forgot why we were saying that.
Sorry.
No, what were we talking about right before that?
Creative problem solving.
Yes. And something about dragging the dead horse. Anyhow, it left me. It was something about judgment. I don't know. It'll come back.
Well, we were talking about these things because I think there's a certain phenomena that's attached to emotions.
Yes.
And one of the things, so I'm really fascinated by dreams, and I've looked into it, and I've just researched recently, maybe a few weeks ago, when I saw a 2-hour, basically a podcast about a doctor who's trying to figure out dreams. And what he says is, we don't know, but we think, what if it's this? What if it's
Right.
this? What if it's this? So there's so much to the mind that we have. For everything we know, there's twice as much that we don't know and that we're constantly learning. And one of the things that I still to this day find fascinating that they still don't have 100% of an answer for is deja vu.
Yes.
And deja vu is something I had as a child often. And it would freak me out because it's that sensation where you're like, I've done this before, knowing you've never done it before.
Right.
Like,
yes.
There, you haven't done it before. So that's where the incongruency is and where your brain is like, but this is so familiar. We have done this before.
Yes.
I have been here before. And I wanted to, and then I wondered why, as I get older, does that happen less? Is it because I have more experience? So I don't have the feeling, because in my mind is like, well, we have done the laundry before. And that's not
Yes,
where
I know
deja
that.
vu comes from.
Yes.
Deja vu is that sensation, and it's
You've had that exact same experience.
like, say you go someplace you've never been. You all of a sudden go to the Grand Canyon, and you get this weird feeling on the back of a horse or the back of a mule. I've been here before.
Yeah.
But you're like, I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I've never been on a horse.
Yes.
Or never been on a
Or
donkey.
been on a train in a foreign country, and you're like, man, this is just so familiar. Like
Right.
this, even the train feels familiar. Like
Or
you know
this-
where the bathroom is.
And the other thing that I find fascinating about deja vu is it's this exact. Not only is it the time and the place and the like this exact thing, and it almost makes you feel like there was a rip in the universe and you saw through the portal of either the future or the past. Like there is this, it has no time,
Well,
it
then
has
that
no
kinda
space.
that brings up the point about the multiverse. Do you believe in the multiverse? And
So every single show, including X-Files, has that show where everything's the same, but everything's different. You know, so in, if it was a Friends episode, they would all still be together, but instead of Rachel being with Ross, she would be with Joey, or like, and you're like, this is all wrong. But in my opinion, the reason why the multiverse idea doesn't work for me particularly is if we are only where we are because of all of the choices and decisions we've made, any one of them can put us on such a completely different track
true.
that we couldn't possibly be with the same people just doing different things. Because I think of if I didn't go, I had wanted to go to a college in Florida. If I, in that other universe, I did go to the college in Florida, I wouldn't have been at the spot to meet my spouse. Now, someone could say, yes, but you would meet him in a different spot in your life. But the way they always play it out in the movies, it's always the same people, just the scenario is different. And it's like,
we
no.
just watched.
I don't think that works. But what do you think?
So we just watched a series about this, and he's the guy who developed the box that you can enter the multiverse through. And it's in a warehouse, and he opens the box, and then you take this shot. And I think so. It opens your mind.
To the parallel universe?
Yes, actually. So I was actually just thinking about it because some of the things that I found interesting that I wrote down about deja vu. Anyway, so it relaxes your mind. It opens the door in your mind to be able to see an endless hallway of doors, and he goes in through each one, and. The premise of the movie, you don't find out right away. He has these awful experiences. Sometimes he opens the door and there's a flood coming at him, or he opens the door and there's like a planet world out there, and it's always the same view. He opens the door and there's like Chicago skyline, but it also like there's the 6 moons or the floods coming, or it's always a different perspective. Or sometimes, but he's always trying to get back to his wife. So what happens is. He himself from another universe, for another multiverse, found him and wanted his wife in that time, because where he met his wife, she was dying or something had happened. So he's trying to go back, or he made a different choice. He chose his work and to create the box, and he let go of her. So he spends this whole time trying to get back to her because he's like, yeah, I don't know about that. So he goes back to his old life, but now there's his old self there. But what it shows up is every time that he goes back and forth, he creates another him, another version of him. So that was like just
too many hymns.
Yes. Crazy wild to think about.
Yeah.
But so what I read is one of the scientists said in 2007, studies show that there was a link between your serotonin levels and your deja vu. So dopamines can increase the likelihood of it. Serotonin can trigger it as well, electrical stimulation. But one scientist said that he believed that it could be two different streams of awareness colliding. You know how sometimes we don't give our full attention and we can take in information, and sometimes it's almost like it short circuits. This theoretical physicist, Dr. Michio Kaku, that's probably how I don't know. I probably butchered it, but I paused on that because I was like, did you ever think that you could be a physicist in thought?
No, I didn't know there was such a thing.
Well, theoretical, like hypothetical. Yeah. I'm a hypothetical doctor. Call me Dr. Hypothetical.
I'm going to call you Dr. Robyn.
But he just said that there's a memory glitch. It could suggest that it could be a memory glitch that occurs when a person enters an environment that is similar to one they have experienced before, and they're in that different stream of consciousness. So like in your subconscious, you've been taking in, in those collide.
I read that young people experience deja vu more than people as they get older. And they said deja vu happens the most to people between 15 and 25. And then we tend to experience the feeling less and less. And if you travel a lot or regularly dream a lot and remember them, you will be more likely to experience deja vu than others. And then it says people who are tired or stressed often report more episodes of deja vu, and it is thought that because fatigue and stress affect both long-term and short-term memory.
I think it's why it's important at night. I think our brain goes through a process of like kind of just sorting, like filing. What do we keep for short term? What do we keep for long term? And filtering it all out. And I think that sometimes we could get miswired.
So I think that the reason why deja vu I found always so fascinating was because it was almost like an itch you couldn't scratch.
Yes.
And that part of it, that niggling.
Yes, there's never an answer.
Oh. And that used to be like, I want to know. That makes me want to know more.
Yes. Yes. Well, so it said in quantum physics, it said that the parallel universes exist, but we can't enter them because we decohered. Which means, so like we've changed, it's kind of like this. So when quantum systems information is altered, so if we've changed like an imprint, it's actually, now we have affected its interaction with its environment. So it creates almost like a block, creating an entanglement between the system and the environment. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of like.
What's your theory on the multiverse?
I'm open. I'm open because I don't, so let me ask you this. Do you believe in reincarnation?
So yes. And I will tell you my theory on reincarnation.
So, but if you believe in reincarnation, it means that you believe that you existed in a different time and different space.
Maybe as a different
spaces, different energy. But you've existed, your energy has existed.
My consciousness or my soul has existed somewhere.
Yes.
I think that doesn't die.
So I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Because if our energy has been in a past life, our spirit, our soul, is it possible that it could exist in different parallels? I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't know what I don't know, but I believe that it's possible that it could exist. Look at everything. Look at the northern lights, just how magical they are. Just all the phenomenons that we see in the world that can't be explained. We don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about, living in space. We're talking about living in space. I don't know what's possible. So I don't want to rule it out. I'm curious.
So and this is the older I am, because when I was younger and I had sort of lost religion or God in the way that I was raised with God, I had a nothingness. For a period of time, I thought, well, when you die, nothing happens. Because I lost some people, and I didn't like my raised knowledge of purgatory, because I was raised Catholic, and I hated purgatory.
Yes.
I hated purgatory. I just thought, well, everyone's in a perpetual waiting room.
Right.
Waiting. Like, I just
You're just
hated
like
that idea.
like you're circling the drain to hell.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what purgatory is.
Yes. And hoping one day, eventually, I'm going to go to
Lukewarm
heaven.
hot dog water.
Right, as long as people are praying for me here. Like, yes. I just hated the idea of purgatory. So I was rejecting purgatory, and in rejecting purgatory, I had like a nothingness belief. And so in that, I read a lot about different religions to see what does everyone think and all of that. And so I loved the Buddhist reincarnation. And so that was my introduction to reincarnation. And there is a sort of like a undercurrent that if you don't do things in your life right, you can come back as a cockroach or whatever, right? That you are in a hierarchy of things. But I actually don't believe that. I think you can come back as a tree. Like, it could be this, your energy is taking form in a different way.
Yes.
It could be in a different thing or in a different person. But I just think that there's, you could have been a star.
Well, so for what the podcast, so if you think there's a theory that time doesn't exist, we've listened to stuff about it. So what if reincarnation isn't from a past life? It's just from a different parallel.
Yes. I like that idea.
So then if
that's like
from
another Lisa running around, no, because I was the culmination of my father's sperm and my mother's egg at a specific time to create me. Because if they had sex the following day,
yes,
I'd be different sperm and I wouldn't be me.
Yes.
Right? I would have been a different consciousness or something, right? So I like the idea of, so when people talk about heaven and hell, I think even if you said life after this one is I'm not tethered to this body, but my soul exists and I will be part of light.
Yes.
I would think that's heaven.
Yes.
Right. And I'm with creation, that light creation, versus being sucked into a dark hole, which would be the hell to me. That nothingness would be hell.
Yeah. Stuck circling the drain. And to me, that might sound silly too, but thinking about hell is a place where you are stuck in a low vibration frequency and energy. Hate, resentment, jealousy, despair, all the bad words. And it's maybe that's, we have adjectives to it to describe our energy level or where our spirit is. And so I don't know if you're always trying to focus on the positive or the positive words, then you're always trying to elevate. You're trying to grow from, hey, I'm not going to let these bad words weigh me down. It's like so if we're choosing to elevate and choosing to lean in and going higher, then you're on your highest vibration. You're on your highest frequency. Mm-hmm. I know that can kind of sound woo-woo, but just seeing how polar opposites, but I actually like the idea of, we've created the idea of time in order to keep track of, in order to count time. So what if it's actually not past? What if it's just we've experienced a parallel?
So sometimes we talk about stuff on the radio and then I will get weird stuff on my Instagram.
That's true.
We talked about kissing one episode. Remember we were talking about kissing? We talked about kissing a few episodes and then nothing came up but this 80-year-old guy talking about how men who kiss their wives before they live 4 years longer than men who don't kiss their wives before they leave.
Really?
Yep. And there were all these different studies about kissing, but they were all coming up in my Instagram feed. So we talked about something, And the next time I went on Instagram, because I'm on Instagram more than Facebook, and Facebook has some algorithm that I don't see anything that I talk about on there. But I was talking about something, and this woman came on, and it was a quantum physics page, and she was talking about we don't circle in 100% 365 days around the sun, right? Everything is an approximate. That's why we have leap year.
Yes.
And Chris was just talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
So because of that, sometimes we are closer to the sun and sometimes we are further away from the sun. And she was talking about how when we get closer to the sun and the light, our consciousness as a species operates at a slightly higher level. And I wonder, and again...
Did you send me that? Because I heard that.
I did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Because I was like, oh my God, we were just,
I know, and I just said that to Chris. I'm like, hey, did you know this?
And so I wonder what's going to pop up next now that we're talking, how we're having this conversation. And my phone is listening. I think all of this is so interesting. And there's no answer. And there's all these guesses. But I like to think when I was in my period where I was... I went from nothing to I really like carnation, so I am going to believe that for a while. Even though I didn't actually necessarily believe in it because I didn't know how it would work. I just said, I'm going to believe in it. So then that was the, don't kill the spider, when the fly lands on you and you habitually go to smack it, you just look at it and say and have a conversation. I would really like it if you didn't bother me today.
I used to kill a
Go
lot
land on a piece of poop.
I would aim for frogs on the road to squish them.
So
and now I'm like, oh God, please, please, please. I'm so sorry. I still don't want you in my pool butt, and I don't want to touch you. I don't want to look at you.
So what if you came back as a flower?
Might be it. Well, yeah.
Right? Just for you're that flower that lasts 3 weeks in spring.
And then you're going to come back as something else.
And then maybe you come back as something else. I like that idea too. I like the fact that it's all renewable in some way. That nothing. So there's no ultimate death. There may be the death of a thing.
Just think about how long life has existed. How long that we've been able to trace life. Mm-hmm. And so it's a cycle. It's I don't know. I think about it as like the infinity.
Yes.
Or it's infinite, its energy is just constantly moving and changing and evolving and moving and so flowing.
If they taught energy and protons and electrons this way in school, I would have totally paid attention during that time period and have been
I
more
might be a
advanced.
theoretical physicist, blah, 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 whatever that is. I might be.
But you talked about it like it was the most boring thing on the face of the earth.
Yes.
We've got to start teaching really interesting things such as chemistry and history in a completely different way.
You should be a great you should be a good storyteller.
Yes.
To be a good teacher.
Yes.
One guy said that I thought was kind of cool, and it says some scientists suggested it could be possible that when you experience deja vu, you're vibrating in unison with a parallel universe.
Mm-hmm.
So your other you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I can quite get my head around that.
I can't get my head around there's Lisas in different times doing different things because I think we're all unique and I think that spontaneous burst of life, whether it's a seed that turns into a flower or it's an egg that hatches and becomes a bird or someone who becomes a person, I think that is such a unique and magical thing that I don't think it's reproducible in the same 100%
capacity.
Yeah. So that's why the multiverse where it's me running around,
But maybe
I have such a hard time wrapping my head around.
Not. Maybe we're just in that consciousness of this one. What if your parents had made a different decision?
Or what if my soul lived in a different body, but I was me?
Yes. Your energy.
But then if you don't have the same experiences, you're not you. Are you?
You in this conscious state, in this moment, you're you. I don't know. That's weird. I might need a margarita to figure that one out.
Well, I was just thinking, are we too sober to have this conversation?
I think so.
Are we not making sense because we're sober? Does this make sense when you're not sober? Unless you're a quantum physicist?
Right. I do like the sound of being a quantum, but I also like theoretical physicists.
So you know what other word I like
wanna
besides
be.
quantum?
What?
Canoodling.
Canoodling. I like canoodling. Canoodle doodle.
So what happened was I asked my spouse if he felt us loving him, because
yeah.
the other thing is so many, superstition, right? Why are people superstitious, or where did that come from as a culture? Or that's a whole nother conversation. But both nationalities that he has is superstitious in a way. So, and they always have this thing. And so we were talking about something, and he told one family member, and they telephone tag called 7 other family members.
Yes.
So he was getting texts that people were praying for him, and someone did the evil eye warding off and all of this other stuff. And I said to him, you didn't know, but Chris, Robyn, and I did a group love for you. Did you feel it? And he's like, I don't know, between everyone's prayers and everything, I didn't know I had so many witches and warlocks conspiring with the universe. And I said, we're not so much conspiring as canoodling.
I'm not really more. I feel like I'm more of a fairy than a witch.
So I was like the canoodling, and I'm like, am I even using that word right? It meant like necking and fondling. I mean, we're not conspiring with the universe, but we're definitely necking with it. We're definitely like fondling it. Its underside, little tickle its belly.
We're giving it a little foreplay. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely on the foreplay side of the versus the a cauldron with the stirring. We don't have that vibration.
Right.
We don't have that kind of malicious intent.
My sparkles and my I feel more fairy sprite than witch.
Yeah. Unless witches
but
are
I
a good
could go
thing.
there. I could go there. I could get into that. So right before we leave last night, I was said to Chris, hey, we're going to talk about deja vu and like the metaphysical a little bit, and movies that we had seen, and he's like, I got one for you, because I said, okay, Ready Player One was a really good one. Obviously, The Matrix, Altered Carbon. I think that's a series. Minority Report.
I like that one.
Well, that's why I said, can we watch that one? And he's like, no, I got one for you, and it was American Underdog. And I was like, okay, that was a totally different one. It's about Kurt Warner making it into football.
And how does that relate to deja vu?
I don't know. We're going to run out of time before I can get into it. But the takeaway of it, what made me aware of Kurt Warner, he was struggling to get in, and the Green Bay Packers had picked him up, and he wasn't ready to go on the field. He fell in love with this woman who had a blind son, and they're having this moment. They get married. They have this moment, and they're standing face to face. So the blind child, who is his adopted, it's his stepson, and he's standing there, and he's getting ready to have this big moment, and they're just sharing an emotion and a moment, and Kurt is looking at this little boy and just seeing, and you can just see the emotions about the love and the tenderness and the humbleness of, like, you can see that he's aware that he's been given a priceless gift, and the kid is just smiling in joy and abundance and like just pureness, a pure kid, happy, like his emotions of this moment of being loved on and sharing this moment. Like, do you see the two different perspectives, like, right there, and how that moment will change? He sees the pricelessness of it. This little boy won't see this perspective of Kurt's until he's older, or until he's a father, or until he has the opportunity to love on another human being that way. But yet they both are rich and full from that experience, and they have two different experiences.
Of the same experience.
Yes, that is exactly what every conversation with every human being is like.
Yes.
And it was just good to seeing able to put it in a loving way. But I walk away from it with a completely different experience. Doesn't mean it's even it's any less valuable or more valuable. It's just different. And that's where I'm like, we should always be curious.
Yes. And thank you for canoodling with us on Thursdays.
Yes.
You are listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN, 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. Watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live. Have a great week until next time.
And presumptive presidential nominee for the Democrats, Kamala Harris. Former president and current GOP nominee Donald Trump turning his attention to Harris on the campaign trail last night, telling a North Carolina rally she was his new victim to defeat. First Lady Jill Biden in Paris.